Chris, no sound. Can't hear you.
Wow. That was interesting. Okay, I don't think that's a first, probably. Yeah. I'm thrown off now. Okay, what was I saying? Okay. I'm go VR, go home. And this is GVO After Dark. This is episode number, or this is actually episode number 30. It's season 3, episode 6. I'm going to bring my co-hosts in. Where are my co-hosts?
Rookie mistake.
Bam.
Rookie mistake, Chris.
It's my first day. Welcome. If you guys don't know, if you're unfamiliar, this is Dave Co to my right, and just below us is M&M Rails. Thanks for joining me, guys. As always,
Get on our level, Mark.
And
Get on our level.
Oh.
ta-da!
Ta-da!
We look so squished. I don't know. Yeah.
This is good.
That's good. That's good. Okay. So I was doing my interpretation of silence there. I did that on purpose, by the way. I don't know if you guys know it or not, but if you guys want to show some support, I'm gonna put the link for the GVO store. It's a Teespring store in the chat there, where you can look as handsome as Mark, or as cool as Dave, or as meh as me. And yeah, show some support, help us out. It goes right back into the show, so we can bring you awesome stuff every single month. So we've got a lot to talk about, guys. We've got some news today, straight out of Northern Ontario. We've got some announcements from Intermountain and Rapido. We've got new stuff in store from Intermountain, Iconic Replicas, and Stoddarts. We're going to do some track talk today. It's kind of like trash talk, but track talk. Let's talk about the brands and the different codes of track. Just like last month, if you guys remember, we did a whole brand discussion on locomotives and rolling stock. So we're going to talk track tonight. And of course, I've got some stuff that we can unbox, take a look at, and review. How are you guys doing tonight?
PG.
Pretty good.
Good. It's going to be a long night. Okay, so yeah, first up for the news, Northern Ontario, has a unique transportation needs. People and businesses in the north rely on safe, convenient transportation networks to get where they need to go. That is why the Ford government has included $5 million in its recently released budget for planning and designing work for passenger rail service in the Northeast and throughout Northern Ontario. MTO is working with Metrolinx and Ontario Northland to bring back an initial business case for passenger rail service in Northeastern Ontario. This includes potential rail service from Toronto to Cochrane. The government will work to examine safety and infrastructure needs for future service between Toronto and North Bay, Timmins, and Cochrane. An initial business case is being finalized and is expected to be released this spring. No, soon. Because I guess it's spring now, huh? So,
yeah.
Either way. But yeah, no, it's great. And kind of in celebration of that, to bring the passenger service back to Ontario Northland, a friend of mine, Justin, I think I saw him in the chat. He actually found this poster of the evolution of Ontario Northland and its passenger service. I'm going to get a frame for this, but yeah, it's really nice, and he was really nice to have that shipped out to me. And
cool.
Yeah, it's going up on the wall.
Yeah,
so.
Looks good.
But yeah, I just thought I'd share that. Okay. So we've got a couple of new announcements. The Intermountain Tier 4 GVO, ET44, Comes in the CN Heritage, Wisconsin Central, Illinois Central, J&E, BC Rail, and the CN Veterans Units, the CN 100th Anniversary, KCS, and more. And they're going to be equipped with ESU lock sound. They're going to go for $220 for just DCC, and DCC sound will be $300. Of course, that's MSRP and Canadian dollar as well. And Rapido trains, if you guys saw the announcement a couple of months ago for the Procore tankers that they did, they recently announced that they will also be available in N scale. CP, Alberta, Procore with the large logo and with the small logo, BC Rail, and more. And of course, Rapido also opened up their own swag store, and it's available through the RapidoTrains.com website, and which links you over to their Teespring store. You can get such merchandise as Via Rail, Amtrak, CP, CN, shirts, hoodies, mugs, and more. So there's a couple of new things that did show up. Mark, you said that you had ordered one of these as well, right?
Technically, my wife ordered it for me.
That's even better. I had to get my own.
It's coming soon. It's coming soon.
I think my wife's afraid of going onto train websites, but so this is the Iconic Replicas Vintage Bus and Motor Coach Collection. You guys have seen me get a number of Iconic Replicas buses in the past, and I'm a big fan of them. They're die-cast with the rubber wheels, and I just think they look really sharp. So I'm just going to see if I can open this. I'll take it out of the plastic here. It's so new, it's still taped shut.
I think mine is, because my wife splurged, of course. Mine's DCC with sound. It comes with a kid screaming in the back. There's an old lady in the front knitting. Some guy passed out because he smells like booze. Yeah, it's great. Oh, so nice.
Very nice. For a bus.
And this is, I mean, more so for Mark's layout, this is spot on. We were talking about that because Via Rail, when they did have a bus service, it was a service that went from Ottawa to Kingston, which technically, if your layout is more Ottawa-based, because you said that you have like your parents' home on there and whatnot. So
yeah,
definitely this would be something that would be spot on for your layout. For me, it says Via on it, so
yeah.
And also the little, I don't know if you'd call that a marquee or whatever, but it does say Ottawa right at the top there. I don't know if you can see that or not.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
And I would love to be able to add lights to these, which I'm pretty sure you have to undo the screws to get in there, but that would be neat to add lights to these because it would look really nice. Very sharp on the layout.
Look cool for nighttime running.
Agreed. So with these, I've got to find there was a bunch of buses actually that they just recently released, and they announced even more, including more Go Transit buses.
There you go.
Yeah. It seems like it's never a dull moment. There's always a company that's releasing something that I want, or something that I need, or something that just looks cool, and then I'm like, yeah, I gotta have it. But these normally go for about $50, $49.99 a piece, and they have the MC9s, MC7s, Prevost, NFI, Excelsiors, and Van Hool TX45. Take your pick. They're all really well done, and they look awesome. And there's the little things across the layout that just add a touch of realism,
Yeah.
And also, there was a new release of these 60-foot high cube Walthers box cars, and also this is the T box, and there's a CN, which we've got here. These are very nice.
Yeah,
they have a good amount of weight.
Those would be great for Dave's layout. Those nice sharp turns.
Oh yeah.
60 feet. I mean, some of the 50-foot ones do them, but they don't look so good. I think
There's a lot of that overhang, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and just because I've got so many 40-foot pieces, the box cars and the gondolas don't look so out of place, but the box cars do.
Yeah, of course.
And those go for only about $32 each, which is not bad at all. It's Walther's awesome pricing yet once again.
Wow, that's a good price. Jeez.
Yeah. UP, TTX, T-Box, what I showed you there. TFM, CN, like I showed you, and BNSF. And also, there's been a huge number of Intermountain auto racks. I think auto racks in general, because Walther's, they just put out some. Intermountain just put out a bunch. Roughly going for about $100 per auto rack. And you can get UP, CSX, BNSF in the yellow, all those in the yellow scheme. CP Red, Conrail, Western Pacific, both in brown. And there's even a store out in the U.S. that did do a Rock Island blue, which is really nice. So if you're ever looking for some auto racks, auto carriers, you're definitely covered.
Yep, we're definitely covered.
What's with the hat?
I felt left out. You guys are wearing a hat.
I'm only wearing a hat because my hair was too wild.
And I haven't been out of the house, so I definitely need a haircut myself.
So we all have t-shirts. We have the beard. We have hats. Chris, use some glasses now.
Yeah, Chris, get in there. Just pop out the frames.
Hang on.
Here we go.
The funny thing is, searching around in the dark for them is the equivalent to me if I needed glasses, looking for glasses, and I was like, where did I put it?
My glasses.
Okay.
Oh, here we go. Yeah,
Well,
buddy.
I look smarter, don't I? Actually, these are my blue light blockers. So anything potentially harmful that I'm seeing right now doesn't affect me, apparently. I usually use them for work, but that's fine. But yeah, we gotta get you two tattoos, says the chat.
CP rail forever.
But like in the heart, you know how you do like mom?
Mom.
Instead of mom, it says CP rail. And maybe a nice tiger for Mark. Just because.
I think he should get Gucci, and that way all the ladies will be like, "Oh my god, you like that brand too?" And he'll be like, "It's my dog's name."
That's fun. By the way, we forgot to, and by we collectively, mostly me, because I normally say hey to everybody in the chat, but I thought we'd get right into it today. But quick. Just super quick. Sorry, gonna go a little bit all the way up here. Hey, Dennis, James, Roy, Split Rock, K-Town, Otis, Idaho Rail Fan, Nessie. I'm sure I'm gonna miss people. Dave, not sure. Let's see. Nick the Train Nerd, how's it going? And Steve G. And I saw, James. How's it going, James? Justin. Hey, Justin. And Drew Dude. Okay, so, yeah, before we get into the bread and butter here, so we've got the track talk. We're gonna talk about track tonight. It's a huge part of everybody's layout, because if you're not using something that's good, then it kind of throws the whole thing out the window, right? It's kind of the purpose, the heart of everything. So why don't you guys, we'll go round table here, and we'll kind of talk about what we have used in the past and what we use now, likes and dislikes. Mark, because you have the most layouts out of all of us. Why don't you go?
I started with DC Atlas Snaptrack. Loved it, but of course you're limited to curves and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Another plus side is Atlas gave you a lot of track plans. So it would say you need this many pieces of track, snap together, and you're good to go. So great for beginners or those who are afraid to, or not afraid, but nervous to solder or cut rails and stuff like that. And now I'm using code 83. Why? Because Chris said so. That's what Chris uses. That's why I use it too. Honestly, that's the only reason why. I'm using Pico because Chris said so.
I don't know if that's fair or not.
I'm not blaming you. I trust you. And so far, I love it. It's when you bend the Pico flex track, it kind of stays in position, easy to work with, no regrets.
Mm-hmm.
As for code 83, code 100, that's again preference. If you want to go, you know me, I'm not super prototypical, so I don't care about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Do you find there to be much of a difference when you're using code 83 to code 100?
Well, I haven't used code 100 since the Atlas Snaptrack, so no, I don't know if there's any difference. I know some people like to have their yards a certain code and the main certain code, and no, I'll keep it simple.
What about the whole soldering aspect? Do you find, well, I guess with Snaptrack you didn't need to solder, right? Did you bother soldering it or no?
No. I only bought a soldering gun or an iron when I bought the flex track.
Ah, okay.
And you get used to it. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of it, but the problem with me is whenever I solder two pieces of track together, I always get this here. There's a gap. So then I do that. I made one short, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, there's a gap here. Then I just keep going, and then all of a sudden, you know, it's like you cut your sideburns in your ear. Well, this one's lower. Okay, I'll just cut it. This one here, and
Yeah.
I never get a nice flush cut.
It's tough with the flex track sometimes. Sometimes it has too much give or not enough give, and
yeah.
You can put either a little bit of track, or some people use like plastic. What's the word? People make kits out of it.
Styrene?
Styrene, yeah. People cut a little piece of styrene just to stop the gaps. I mean, naturally with humidity and stuff, the track will expand and shrink and stuff. So it's not a terrible thing to have gaps. Mind you, if you solder, that's going to limit it. But I mean, the way I've always kind of looked at it is, if the train doesn't derail, good to go.
Exactly.
You know, I've got tons of little gaps here and there, and it adds the clickety-clack sound.
Yeah. So far, so good.
Yeah.
I've even heard of people actually, once all the track is down and everything is, complete, they'll go back around, and every so often they will cut a little notch in their track just to get that authentic clickety-clack sound.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I don't know if that's overkill or just extra work. It's cool. I'm down for it, but it just seems like a little bit of extra work that might be unnecessary.
It finally happened. I guess it was my last live show. The duck lift I was putting in, very hard to get the rails to join. So I guess they finally expanded, because I made it really, really tight. So I really had to jimmy it in there. So
yeah, and then it kind of goes sideways and like curves a little bit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So would you potentially just snip a bit off or file it back, or?
You know what? I'd probably file it, because again, with the snipping,
it's hard to
cut too much off, then I can't put it back on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to just take a small amount off with the snips.
Yeah.
Dave, what about you? You've had a number of layouts as well, and I know that you use different stuff than both of us.
So I started with Atlas Snaptrack Code 100. And I think it's okay. It's great for beginners. Like Mark said, it's really great that Atlas releases their own like track plans and stuff like that, and it's so easy to get started. And then I moved into kind of a mixture of Atlas, Snaptrack, and FlexTrack on my last layout. And I had all Atlas switches and stuff like that, and everything went together pretty good. I feel like if it's kind of a permanent layout and it gets kind of big, you would want to solder the Snaptrack just because for like electronic connectivity, every rail joint is a potential loss. So that's what I ended up doing, and I kind of had a little bit of FlexTrack and some Snaptrack, and that worked pretty good. I've never really cared about the code, kind of like what Mark said. It's personal preference. I mean, Code 83 is smaller with the brown ties, and it looks a little more prototypical, but obviously with smaller rails, that can cause less tolerances. And so when I built this layout, I actually stayed with Code 100 Atlas FlexTrack, and I think it's great. It is super forgiving. I have no problems. I'm running 15-inch radius curves and 4% grades, and all my stuff runs great. Knock on wood, as it like derails in the background. But no, I've never. I think if I had a bigger layout, I would definitely look into the Code 83. But I've had no problems with Atlas Code 100, and I know a lot of people think it looks ugly, but once you paint it, it looks fine to me.
Yeah.
And then once it's ballasted, like, are you even gonna notice? I mean, I guess it's different if you were in a club and you had to stay to a standardization, but so yeah, I went with that route, and I did solder all of my rail joints, and I've got some gaps in there, like you, Mark, and I don't fill them. Basically, it's once I do it, I test it with many different things, and if nothing derails, I leave it. So maybe it makes a louder click noise than something else, or maybe sometimes, like when I cut the rails, I do file it, and so it's more of a smoother bump instead of just a straight 90 degree, and that works well, especially if there's any sort of height mismatch. But
good idea.
It works, like I said, it's pretty forgiving. So it's hard to say what I'd go with next time, but I'm really happy with the Code 100 FlexTrack right now.
And now, do you find that having the Code 100, it helps to keep the flanges on the rails at all, especially with the curves?
I think so, because I did play around with Code 83 back when we got those Rapido modules. I bought way back when I bought one piece of Code 83 FlexTrack, and I just looked at it and tested it, and I just think with the Code 100 rail height difference, it's that much more forgiving. I can have a nail sticking up a little bit out of the tie, or some glue bumping, or maybe some ballast, and because it's up higher, the whiskers on my couplers aren't going to hit as much when it goes around the corners, my tight radius corners. I don't notice any bouncing, but if it were to bounce, you've got a little bit more forgiveness there. So I mean, I've got such limited space that it was really, no doubt in my mind, I wanted the extra tolerances, so I went with the Code 100.
And a question for both of you. I know that we didn't really mention this yet, but do you guys leave a gap, or do you use an insulated rail joiner, the little plastic rail joiners?
I use a insulated rail joiner, just because to me, it kind of keeps it lined up. if you just leave a gap, and even if you've glued stuff, over time it may walk side to side or up and down, and eventually cause problems. Whereas with the insulated rail gap, it's kind of uniform. You've got like that 1 millimeter gap out of rubber or whatever it is, plastic, but side to side, up and down, it stays where it is. Never had problems with them. But
yeah, same here. I use those for my my yard tracks. Works great.
And do you use two, or do you just put in the one for one side and keep one common rail, and the other is just your, you run one wire?
I think I just use one.
I use two.
Really? Eh?
I use two. You can use one. But for me, I just like I mean, I had enough. I think it would be different if, I had bigger layouts like you guys where, I'm sectioning off massive amounts of track. But for me, I bought a set, and I've got my reversing loops, which specifically mentioned to do both. Obviously because of the polarity change, and I just kind of stuck with that. I know either one works, so I think it's personal preference, but
Now, in regards to with the, I guess, track for what I've used, I mean, when I was younger, and again, this is just one of those, like when I first started, I'm pretty sure I was like 7 or 8. I did use the Atlas Code 100 Snap Track. That's what I had available to me. It was all given to me, so that's what I used. But since, I guess, starting these bigger layouts and, monstrosities, I did start with the Code 100 Flex Track from Atlas, which I felt like it did what it was supposed to do. I didn't, I guess, I want to say I didn't know better, because I didn't really dip my toe in the water of, everything that, this hobby has to offer. But, it's just like anything else. You learn as you go and you discover new things. And it really wasn't like when I had heard about Pico and the different codes, I'm like, nah, I'm good. Because, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And if your layout is working and you can run trains and all that, then you're good, right? But we're never really done progressing. And it actually wasn't until I went to the Ottawa Hotrack and I saw what they were using, and I saw how much of a difference it looks using Pico Code 83. And I said, okay, you know what? If I have to build another layout at some point, I'm going to try it, see how that goes. And I eventually did. And I tried using the wood ones. I used the concrete ties. The concrete ones look so good. I can't justify it just because of the areas that I'm modeling, but I love the concrete ties. But as for the wood ones, I mean, I find that the ties for Pico are much smaller than the Atlas ones. And I mean, I'm sure the same can be said about micro engineering, because I do have micro engineering. I want to say it's either Code 83 or Code 70 for my bridge track, and it looks really nice. It it works. It does what it's supposed to. But Pico Code 83 has been what I've been using for the last several layouts, and I don't find that I need to change anything, or would I use something different? I mean, I could try Code 100 in the future for maybe mainline, just for those faster trains and whatnot. But yeah, I've been okay with the Code 83. And I think it's becoming a more common track to use, I think.
Yeah. Have either of you guys used like a Bachmann or Kato Unitrack, that kind of stuff with the roadbed built in?
I bought a set secondhand, and I just set it up for my nephew, and then I gave it to my brother for his young one, but I never actually bought it for actual set.
Yeah. And Chris, I think you did it when you went to N scale, right? You had it, but not an HO.
I did have a Bachmann oval
Okay.
for around the Christmas tree at one point, and let me tell you, even though it's an 18-inch radius, that it worked so well, and I think it's because it's a very consistent curve,
Yeah.
and the way they lock in, I was able to run my Go Transit commuter cars so well, even though it was only an 18-inch radius, and those are very particular cars.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, we were going to talk about N scale. I know Mark didn't really do N scale, but you and I did.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're much more of a braver soul for doing the flex. Where
Oh, it was not a good time. I don't know how people do it. I did not have a good time. Like, I was so used to HO. But before we get to that, I've taken a look at both Bachmann and Kato, and just to compare it to the Atlas Snaptrack, because they're all kind of Snaptrack sections.
Yeah.
I do find the Bachmann and the Kato almost like smoother. It just goes together better, and I do see the appeal to have the roadbed included. You know, for some people, you don't want to buy extra cork or foam. You don't want to have to lay multiple things. You can just boom, here's, my track plan, click, 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 glue that down, and you're good to go. And realistically, you're not going to have, if any, a lot of track problems. But I will say I like the idea of the Atlas Snaptrack, because if you want to change your mind and go to Flex Track, it's so much easier. I know there's ways to do it with the built-in roadbed and stuff, and I'm sure you can make it look just as good. But just out of ease, if you ever wanted to upgrade, I think that's a benefit of the Atlas. But I mean, you could it comes down to personal preference, right? I think there's massive success stories with all kinds of track, and it's going to go from looks to ease of access, and sometimes it's just going to be what you can get your hands on, or what's the cheapest, or that kind of stuff. So but I know a lot of people use the Kato and the Bachmann, and still Atlas Snaptrack, and I mean, you sacrifice the customization of Flex Track, but at the same time, you probably have a lot less problems. But yeah, going back to N scale, man, that was a nightmare. Oh man, I used the Pico Code 72, something like that, whatever the Pico Code 70 is, and it was so small. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't hard to like solder, and laying it wasn't a big deal. But what was a big deal is, and I don't know if this pertains to code 83 and HO, but you're trying to like slip a rail joiner on, and you're kind of like, I'm just gonna kind of jimmy this and wiggle it and kind of maybe pull it up a smidge just to get it in there. That is so unforgiving, or at least that's what I had. It just the little spikes, the plastic spikes would just rip, and then the rail would come out. Yeah. And then your rail's out of gauge.
I hate
and that. You can try to glue it all you want, and sometimes you can get it right, but man, that sucked. I made it almost all the way around my layout before I called it quits, and the frustration of it, honestly, was a big factor to, my introduction to N scale hell. Like, it was not a good time. I'm sure there's other stuff out there. I really wish I would have looked around and checked, but Pico, I was like, oh, Pico's a great brand. Like Pico Flex Track, Pico, switches, Pico, whatever. Like Pico's Pico. Pico's a pretty good brand, and I love their stuff. So I thought, I'll be safe going with it when I went with the N scale Flex, and man, it was not good.
The Kato Unitrack, which, I mean, to an extent, it's fun to use, and they do a lot of the math for you, which I really appreciate, because if you want to get a layout together, you want to get it going, and you want to be able to run trains like that day, no problem. And with the sets that they sell, and they're all, the thing that I like probably the most is that they're all universal. So you can get like 5 or 6 box sets, and they all work together, and you can create a decent layout on a 4x8 just by getting about like 4 or 5 of those kits. And even with there's 2 kits that they have. I think they were number 15 and 16. I can't remember now, but it's a double main line, and the curves are super elevated, and all that's done for you. So 1, super elevation, awesome. 2, you can literally run your longest N scale passenger cars, and they will never rub. And because the track is a certain distance from each other, and they do all that math for you. So if you don't like having to do all that brain work and you'd rather just put it together and run a train, 100%, but it doesn't take away from it though.
Yeah. One thing I do want to add, I saw Nissy J mentioned it. Okay, I don't know how many of us cut the rail. We're like, we're going to take this rail joiner. We're just going to slip it on with the thumb. Yo, those N scale ones are friggin' blades. I don't know how many went through my thumb, and then there's blood everywhere, and they hurt. And it's just like, oh God. So then you're trying to, and you can't use pliers because they're so small. You're going to bend them. You're going to crush them. So you're like, honestly, Chris, I don't know if you remember. I think, no, I guess he never came over. My thumbs were just ripped up the whole time. Like the whole time laying track, because I'd be like, okay, the pad of my thumb is all like jacked up, so I'll use the side, and then it would go through the side, and just like, it's like putting a needle but bigger, like oh my God. And it just, the whole time I was like, oh, it hurts, and there's blood everywhere. There's blood all over my bench work still from it. Oh man,
that's why you're supposed to ask an adult.
You weren't available.
I'm sorry.
Mark wouldn't come over. But yeah, those for reference, I was using the Pico N scale rail joiners. I'm not a huge fan of their double O or HO rail joiners either. I find them really tight, which I guess is great, but man, like they hold, once they're in, they hold things great, but they're so hard to get on, and so poor Thumbski here really took a bunch of hits.
You know what works really well? My bridge section, keeping in mind it's double track, and basically what I do is I use a Code 100 rail joiner on both ends of both tracks, and it holds it in place. I can run the train over. But if I ever need to remove my bridge for whatever reason, it's just like, and then it comes out.
Yeah.
Like that, right?
Yo, the Pico ones that come on like Turnouts, I rip them off with a plier, and it's hard to get off because like it's tough. I don't know if they just don't mate well with Atlas, and that may be the case. But...
And they go under the tie as well.
Yes.
That snugs it in there real tight.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Nightmare. So, do you want to start talking about turnouts and switches now, or?
Yeah.
Mark, do you have anything left to say? Oh, no, Mark? Chris, we're done with you.
Yeah, we're done with you, Chris. Although let's talk about track and soldering. I want to lay some more track down now.
You got a couple more industries to go, don't you?
Yeah.
I need some help. You know who needs help? Me.
Yeah.
I know we were done talking about me, but me, guys, me.
I love running track and wire in it. Is my favorite part of the whole layout.
Oh, I'll order a pizza. I'll order some bacon.
I'm busy that day.
Oh, oh well. I'll get them. But while we were just talking about the track real quick, I use I do the one insulated rail joiner as well, and then I'll solder one to make sure that it doesn't go anywhere. Like I'll continue I think it's the I do the outside rail because that one's more likely to move. And then especially because if it's on a curve or whatever, then I'll solidify that. I'll bend it to the whatever radius, lock it in, and there you go. But what I've been doing, and this was, I think, a suggestion from you because I want to make blocks. And what I'm doing is that once I have my track down everywhere, I have one section where I literally just snipped out like smallest piece of rail, no rail joiner, but it, you can hear that click clack, but it's two separate blocks at that point. And I plan on doing that at each part of this helix here for every time you come off or get on.
Yeah.
Yep. So no insulated rail joiner on the main, but sidings, go nuts.
Yeah. I think it's just a personal preference kind of thing.
And what will the blocks do again?
For signaling and stuff like that.
Also, if something derails on, let's say, my top level, that's one block. So if I've got a train running on the bottom, that keeps going and it's unaffected because the block upstairs is the one that's.
Okay.
James is asking if I solder all my track. Yes, I do. I don't leave any gaps. I don't do any of that stuff. I've never had any issues. There's no bowing or anything like that. So until I see that happen, I don't think that I'll worry too much about it. But everything seems very smooth. I know it sounds like I'm saying good things about myself, but really I'm surprised. I'm just as surprised as anybody else who runs on my layout. So yeah, it just happens. I don't know. Yeah. I'm not a professional. I just do it. Just do it. If I make a mistake,
you are.
Huh?
What?
What? I don't know if you're joking.
No, I am joking.
Oh, no, I didn't even hear you.
Oh, I don't. I think you said I don't pretend to be. Well, I don't remember what I said. Hold on, we might have to go back to the video on that one.
You're fired. Switches, go.
We're switching into what?
So, if you've just joined us, Mark is switching over to Australian rail now. He's leaving Canadian rail and going to Australian rail. Which I don't know any rail names from Australia, but so it makes my joke not as accurate. So, but switches. What do you guys use for switches? What have you used?
I mean, for switches, I've used. I've tried quite a few. I got some old Shinohara in a box way back when, and I had like one fast track, and they had the electric frog, which is fine, but I totally wasn't prepared for that because I wasn't running any sort of switch machine at that point. So that kind of dampened that, and I ended up replacing everything with Atlas. Started off with like just snap switches, which again, if you're gonna go with that, but that's like a pretty tight radius, and so tried to start moving over to like number 4s and number 6s, but that just did not just didn't cut it because I'd done my yard with snap switches and it was just a disaster. I'm now completely Pico, just the Code 100 Pico, and I use the medium SL like 89s and 88s, 89s, I want to say. I wish that they would have come out with the Unifrogs because those look sweet. And I find the switches work really, really, really good. I've only had problems with one of them where the frog, because it's real, like the tolerance is really small, and the odd time a flange on an Atlas boxcar would bridge that gap and short out that section of my layout. But I ended up putting some clear nail polish over it, and it's fine. So, 1 out of 30 or something, I'm not too worried about it.
Wait, I missed it. What does the clear nail polish do?
So it just stops the electricity from flowing over just above the frog. So I just put a dab of it on both sides of the rail, like both rails above the frog, just to kind of extend the insulation a smidge more. And it's good.
Yep. Now you'll like, because of your preference and what you run, you probably wouldn't be running any like track mobiles, right?
Well, exactly. Yeah, I think if you're looking at 040s or like a 04 tank engine or track mobiles or something with really small wheelbases that have no extra pickups, insole frogs and stuff would give you problems. But because I'm running an 060 with a tender pickup and even switchers, 4-axle switchers, is more than enough. Maybe if it was like one of those 40 or 50 tonners, though those are kind of small. But even then, I do the jumpers. So I solder the jumpers to the frog rails, or not frog rails, the point rails, and that way they're always powered, and I never have any sort of issues with that. So.
And Mark, what about you? How do you feel about the switches?
I'm not even listening to you guys. Sorry, I'm not plugged in. I've tuned out a while ago. I was reading the chat. Sorry, what was the question?
What do you use for switches?
Or what have you used?
Good chat, by the way. You guys gotta read this. Well, again, I use whatever Chris recommends. So I use Pico and I use Insole Frog. Turnouts. Yeah. No, I use Electro Frog.
Sometimes I like to throw him off a little bit. If he comes to me for advice, I'll be like, go with the one that vibes with you the most, and he'll be like, wicked. So he's doing it right, though. He's doing it right.
I said this before, and I'll say it again. I watch so many YouTube videos on mile railroading, and I've seen so many videos on switches and turnouts. Still have no idea how they work and how they're wired. Like, there's one part on my with my yard. If certain switches are switched in a certain pattern, train goes dead. I can't figure out why.
You probably have to do what I do with the jumpers.
I have no nail polish, though. That's the thing.
No nail. First, no, I'm joking. I'm kidding.
More feeders.
But
yeah, I know. I thought I had lots of feeders, but I must have missed one.
No, yeah. So this way, no matter which way it's, whichever, in this case with the jumpers, you can have one set of feeders on any 3 of these tracks and still have power to the whole thing, which is why I do it this way. When vaccinations roll out and stuff, I'll come over and explain everything, and we'll figure it out.
I think I might need some explanations too. You should.
I think there's a video I made out of it, but I'll give you the cliff notes.
I'm pretty sure I'm missing a feeder. I must be missing a feeder.
Maybe.
It happens. With the what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, because I saw in the chat there. Okay, so Shinohara actually, Walters bought, I guess, the tooling or the rights to Shinohara.
Yeah.
So all of the new switches that Walters is doing, I mean, given like Walters has an excellent track record. That wasn't on purpose, by the way. They have an excellent track record of having excellently priced items, but their switches and stuff are way more expensive than like Pico and stuff. And you're already paying an arm and a leg, like $45 for a switch. Like, it's a little bit ridiculous at that point, but you have to do it. And then in comes Walters and their Shinohara style switches, and you're paying even more than that per switch. You take a yard, that's $1,000 right there.
Yeah.
So
I have always. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say I've always been a fan of like the fast track jigs. I don't know if I would have the skill to do that. I'm sure I could figure it out after about 100 switches. I'd get one right, but cost wise, like that's way more effective. But man, that's so much work. It's so nice to buy one. And I mean, you don't have to do the jumpers, but I always do the jumpers. It's quick. It's, cut some wires, boom, 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 you're done. But man, like I can't imagine being like, okay, I just spent like 5 hours working, one turnout's done, and it's just like, oh my God.
That's a whole, like doing custom switches and laying, like hand laying your own track. That's a whole other can of worms.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah, no thanks.
I want to be able to run my trains in the next year, not, eventually, And I think in some cases, when it comes to switches and track and whatnot, I find that a lot of people give up because they either ran out of resources or they've run out of money because of the fact that, well, I'm trying to build a yard, and there's a grand right there. That's a minimum of $1,000 depending on how many switches you have, and then beyond that, you've got if it's a double main line, you're going to be switching between one line and the other. Given switch machines as well per thing, or even those. Like I know we're a big fan of those Caboose Industries hand throws as well, and you only get 5 for like just under $20. So, a big part of it would be the track, and that's where people will even give up before they've even started.
Yeah. One shout out about that is that's a reason I like the Picos is because they've got the built-in spring. So even Atlas and Walters, I don't know who else actually has, other than like the Unitrack. I think they have the built-in ones. And I know the Atlas snap switches come with the switch machine. A lot of the times you can get the pack, but just for bare switches, having the built-in Pico spring is a lifesaver because that's what I use on my layout, other than the 2 reversing loops.
I think Mark's got the hiccups.
Anyway, just something to keep in mind because that does save you from the fact, I know that it's securely against the stock rail and I don't have to worry about, do I have room to put a surface mounted, switch machine or an underneath like switch machine, that is going to cost anywhere from $350 for those Caboose ones to, $6-8 for some of the electronic ones a piece, $10, I don't know. And then all the wiring that goes with that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It is. And, some people in the chat are saying like this whole, it's getting expensive, and it is getting expensive,
If there's something that everyone though can take away, if you're in the middle of building a layout or if you're thinking about it, the one thing that both of these guys did was that they did their main line and they added the switches to go off of the main line, but they completed their main lines before they did anything else.
Yep.
And that's why they're able to run trains and be able to do the things and still be able to enjoy and feel the sense of completion because they did that. That's the route they took. And that's something that everyone can take with them because, if you're going to start with something as huge as a yard, it will definitely put a damper on the whole layout building.
Absolutely. When you get your first train running, if you've got a loop, which I think most people do, some people do point to point. But even if you do point to point and you finally have that long stretch of track where you can either just turn it up and walk, like kind of step back and let it do its loop, or for a little bit if it's point to point, it just feels so good to watch it go around. You get that kind of feeling of completion, and then every time you add something, it feels good and it breaks it up. And we talked about it last week or last month. How you want to break it up. Do you lay all your cork and then lay all your track, or do you kind of break it up? And everybody's going to find their own way to do it, but it definitely feels nice to get a train going around the main line.
Yeah.
Do you find though, and this is another tough one, does everything else slow down on your layout as soon as you can run your loop?
We talked about that, and you know what? At first it didn't for me, but now it has. Right? I mean, it I got the train and I'd run the train around, but I was so motivated because I wanted Industries to bring the train, and I wanted the yard to sort the trains and stuff like that, and I was really like boom 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 boom. But now I find myself like coming down and just spending an entire week doing nothing except running trains and not working on layout at all.
Yeah. Is it one of those things that not necessarily you regret, but is it, do you wish you had more of that motivation to do the other stuff, or? And that's for both of you, by the way.
You go ahead, Mark.
I don't know. I admire you, Chris, because you're getting things done and you're motivated to finish your main line, but I don't know. I don't see myself being motivated to do scenery, but I guess it would help me do my main line. Hard to say.
Well, you do have your main line, and there's kits that you're getting and you're building, and a big part of what you're doing, you're taking your time with everything, despite the fact that your layout is not like a massive layout. You're still taking your time, and things are turning out really, really well for you. And that's something that at the end of the day, you're going to sit back, you're going to look at it, and you're going to appreciate it that much more. Where for myself, even though I'm doing certain things and I'm getting stuff done and out of the way, it's something where, well, when I get my loop done and then I get my sidings done, am I going to come back and I'm going to say, okay, so I did this because I had to, or I felt like I had to. What can I do to make it better? And then I'm going to be redoing little things here and there, as opposed to taking my time, making it look better. But instead, I'm trying to get things done so I can get all the way around.
Yeah. Where my motivation lies now is, I mean, the YouTube channel, that's always motivation, right? Keep the viewers with something new, fresh. But I find when I rail fan on my layout for videos and stuff, there's only a certain amount of sweet spots where I can have the camera angle without looking like still foam and bare wall. So I'm anxious to get some trees and grass, so there's a bit of scenery in the background when trains run by. That's motivation right now.
I'm excited to see more backdrop for what you come up with for the rest of the layout. That's what I'm really excited for, because that, like, night and day.
Yeah. So, makes a big difference.
Someone in the chat did ask me if I do have my main line done. No. Second level, where this locomotive here, basically just a little bit past here, you go to like a bridge which enters my elevated train station. That's basically where the track ends, right about here on my second level. But first level is totally done, except for sidings, really. My yard's in, my industry, I got a maintenance facility, that track's all down. And then I've got a yard that's just behind on the second level here. All that track's down as well. But mainline still has to do a full loop around the middle, come back, and then I have to do the full loop for the very top level. It's just been tough because Ontario is on lockdown until basically the end of May. And I need to go get 4x8 sheets of plywood, and I need it cut in store to be able to fit into my my car. So until I can go in, I'm kind of stuck on the wood side. That's why I've been focusing a lot on these. Like, I'm getting my steel mill built and painted and whatnot, if you guys have been following along Sunday mornings. But I'm finding a bunch of other things that I can do to kind of pass that time and get things looking a little bit better. And literally there's a huge majority of my bottom level that's basically scenic. And it's nuts how far the bottom level has progressed, where I'm not even done track for the second level, and I haven't even started track for the top level.
So Chris, question: do you regret not making a track plan that can have a loop at the bottom level?
I mean, it's been thrown out there. It's just it wouldn't really. It might take away a little bit from what I've got going on, and I don't know. I'm still happy with what I've got. It just I don't think it would work with what I'm doing, and I would have to put like an extra. I'd have to come out further, and I'm just very particular with stuff like that, like with the space that I can use and whatnot. Yeah. So no, I don't regret it. What about Mark, you talked about your switches.
Yeah.
Dave, what about you and switches? Or did you talk about switches?
I already talked about my switches.
You talked about your switches. Okay.
Yeah. I didn't really talk about my motivation, but
let's talk about your motivation.
My layout's so small, a little bit of motivation kind of goes a decent way. So that's nice. Massively contrasted to your layout, Chris, where you bought a piece of plywood and it's gone, and you only make a couple percentage. Mine came together so quick, and because of my space limitations, I needed to do something kind of fancy and try some things, and it worked out. And so I have a successful small layout where if I take an hour, I can weave a bunch of cardboard, which you can't see, it's off camera now, but weave a bunch of cardboard into some hills. And I'm finding it really tough, especially in the spring, because I've got so many other hobbies. I do the train layout. I've got my old car. I'm a big gamer, PC gamer, and I have a ATV. And then obviously things like chores and working around the house and spend time with my wife and work and sleep. So I don't get a lot of time. But luckily, I can kind of come down. I like to actually do a lot of work during your guys' live streams when I like to put on a live stream whenever I have a chance and just pick away at the layout. But it's slowing down, and I don't like the scenery aspect as much as everything else. But like Mark said, like it's right now, nothing's done. For me, nothing's done, so I can't really rail fan my layout without having some unfinished stuff in the scene. And that's kind of my motivation right now, is to get some plaster cloth down and try to make a little bit of a scene so that it looks a little better for some videos.
One thing that we didn't touch on, because I know that we were talking about track and switches, we didn't really dive into the roadbed side of it, because there's many different ways to do that, where it's just track down on wood, track down on foam, track down on cork roadbed, track down on foam insulated roadbed, and then whatever else.
Homosote and
Homosote,
like yeah.
So if you guys want to jump in, Dave, talk about the different things that you've tried and noticed, because I believe you have used a variety of things.
Yeah, I've done track right on the pink foam. I've used the Woodland Scenics foam roadbed, and I've used cork. Personally, I like cork the most. It just feels a little bit more substantial. It's easier to work with overall. I like the look of roadbed. I know, like on my old layout, I didn't have roadbed on some of it because on the industry spurs and stuff. Kind of like how I built some of my industries up with cork. On that layout, I just brought it down to the pink foam. People will say the sound and dampening the sound and the motor hum and stuff like that, and I really can't say I've noticed much of a difference. I'm pretty easygoing though, so it's going to come down to personal preference, I think. But for me, that's not really an aspect I ever worry about. but I did work with the Woodland Scenics foam roadbed, and it wasn't that much cheaper than cork. I went with it because it was cheaper, and then at the end, it wasn't that much cheaper. And it was kind of a pain to work with, where cork is pre-sliced in the middle, and then you can kind of bring it around the curves real easy. I found the foam being one piece and having to cut it, and then it's never straight because I'm not great with scissors. And it just, maybe if my skill level was higher, and it wasn't as forgiving either. Like, you glue it down and you're like, shucks, I messed up. I used white glue for both sets. It's all white glue. I don't use any of that no more nails, caulking gun stuff. Like, no, it's dollar store white glue all the way here. And you spray water on it, it turns back to white, and you rip it up. The foam never ripped up clean. The cork, even off you get some spots, but for the most part, you can reuse the cork, not so much the Woodland Scenics foam. And to me, that's a big deal because I make a lot of mistakes.
I find that the cork tends to absorb more, like glue, stuff like that. So it makes it if you're able to take it up, it's still very hard to work with again afterwards. Like there is no round two with the
cork.
Saving it.
I guess maybe the majority of stuff has been like straights or slight curves. And I've caught it pretty soon. Like I'm not gonna rip anything up right now, especially after like paint and stuff. But I think it would be harder now. But I don't know. I guess it's a time frame kind of thing. Maybe.
Best before 1 week.
Yes. Oh yeah. That's like the day after maybe, or a couple hours after that. I usually try to rip that up. So that's probably why.
So what do you recommend then?
Ooh. Well, I guess it depends the application. I like cork on plywood, but the foam on foam kind of I like too, in that aspect of thing. I don't know.
Yeah, because you've done both. Because you're right on wood right now, and then before you used foam, right? So
yeah. If I needed to make the recommendation right now, I'd say cork on plywood. But, I would say don't shy away from the foam. If you're a beginner and that's all you want, you can get your hands on it, go for it. Like.
Mark, without saying that Chris told me so.
Okay.
Chris
I have this friend who has a YouTube channel, and he's a model railroader. He recommended that I use cork.
Huh, I didn't recommend that.
Well, because I wasn't there for your other layout, the 4x8 layout.
Yeah.
But you used risers and whatnot, right? That was mostly risers.
Yeah. Well, my very first layout with my brother, nothing. Grass mat. Foam.
That was
grass mat track.
Wait. AstroTurf?
Pretty much.
Nice. Yeah, the good old grass.
Everything was just grass. We had white foam lay out the grass mat. And guess what? We were happy.
Yeah.
Trains ran. It was great. You could pin things in. It was fine. There was no ballast, no cork, no foam.
Yeah.
Done. And then I did my next layout, the DC one, the 4x8. I used because it looked easy, the black foam from one of the Scenics. No issue. I didn't try to ballast it though, so I don't know how that would have worked out, but no issue. Like you, Dave, the whole sound deafening or deadening thing. How loud are your trains? You have to.
I don't know. Like that's because if you don't have a sound encoder, like that's all the sound you're getting. And I mean, I don't know, that's just kind of part of it. That was, I came from the Tyco days with the pancake motors, which, was super loud anyway. So anything less than somebody yelling in my ear was an improvement,
I say bring back the rolling thunder, Give it a little bit of a rumble. It doesn't need to be deaf, you're going to hear a real train coming, that's for sure.
I used to watch those videos where they have a guy, they put down the cork, the foam, nothing, and they have a hammer, and then doom, doom, do. I'm like, What the heck? I'm
It's
going to
a
be
real
hammering my
thing.
layout.
Well,
So-
when they talked about the noise canceling foam, and I believe Rapido did a version of it, it's just like the Woodland Scenics one. Now, I've never used it personally, just because it just like the thickness of it didn't seem, I don't know. It was like, again, you tend to use what you're used to, and with Midwest, I've always used Midwest cork.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess that's just what I'm used to, I guess.
I would recommend using cork or any kind of road bed if you want that kind of look with the ballasts, the slope.
That slope. You need
but the slope was on the foam too.
That's what I'm saying. So any kind of road bed you get. Foam, cork.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. As long as it's sloped, yeah.
But as for buying road bed to deaden the sound, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it really depends on the area to which you're doing. So, for example, mainline, 100% run the cork, but like when it comes to a yard, it's going to look like it's flat to the wood or whatever. Although I don't put it flat on the wood, because that means I would have to come down off the cork. And we used to do it. We'll talk about that for the siding. We'll talk about that in a minute, because hit and miss.
Oh, yeah. More miss than hit.
And you know exactly what I'm talking about. But
yeah,
what I do is, obviously you go from the cork, I'm just Midwest, whatever, and then you go right into the big sheets of cork, and then you go into your switch, and then so it's all one level. You're not doing anything fancy there. It's all one level. Yeah. And even for my sidings now, it's the cork, and then it goes into the big sheet cork.
Yeah.
And then it's just flat.
That's what I did this time too.
So go ahead, you talk about it.
Okay, so back on, and you can see this. I was real resourceful. I gotta admit, I was resourceful. It's a live and learn kind of thing. It kind of worked. So when I used the foam on foam, the Woodland Scenics Roadbed on pink foam, I needed to get it off the roadbed. So what did I do? I bought window and door jams, like the pre-made wedges, the shims, and I just like measured it up to height and cut it and use that as a ramp. Lots of decoupling. I mean, no derailing really, but the decoupling was like, you don't need magnets. You just back her on. The slope just takes it. And
it's like a hump yard.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of worked in some areas, but, learning and all of this, like this entire discussion is just like learning from your mistakes. Yeah. Could I have made it work? Absolutely. I could have sanded those and made it more the gradient different. And, I could have made those work. You could make anything work if you try hard enough, if that's all you got. But I started a new layout, and I knew that I didn't want to make the same mistakes. So I have cork with the cork sheets now too, and I think it's so much better. It just looks better, like cleaner in my eyes. But again, if I were to go back to pink foam under my track, that might change. Plywood is I said it before. Plywood and cork sheets, foam, and I'd figure something else with the ramp. I don't know what I'd do.
I think there's a way to represent the main line being higher than your sidings, but I don't feel anymore, because I did that too. I'm guilty of it. And in a sense, it's accurate, because your sidings are going to be a lot lower than your main lines, which is it's real. You're trying to recreate a representance of the real thing. But I feel that if I did something similar to that in the future, God willing, if I have to move and this thing comes apart or whatever, that I will represent it by having code 100 on the main line, and then maybe code 70 as a siding, and having that much of a smaller rail will show the height difference, and I won't lose the level. You know what I mean? The transition from one to the other.
That's true. Some people use N scale roadbed as well for a slight change, and that's a good idea. But at the end of the day, if I really had like problems with it, I'd just leave it all the same height, and I just wouldn't care.
It doesn't bother you?
No. It's everything about this hobby is a personal preference. If I didn't have the resources to put, cork sheets down, well, I mean, I didn't. At first, I didn't. I just laid all the cork, and I almost didn't. It wasn't until I had to rip up a bunch of my track and put down the cork sheets. I almost just left it because I don't really care. Some people just don't care, and that's totally okay. It's your layout. Do whatever you want. Some people, people with the Atlas and Kato, they can't do it. No big deal. Still looks okay.
It does help though when you have the cork sheet down and then you put your building right beside.
Yes.
The track
Yeah.
To keep it all like
height. Yeah.
Because as soon as you have just the cork roadbed right beside a building, there's a massive drop there, and then you've got your loading docks are way lower, right? So
yeah. Well, but I mean that can always be added after the fact. Like Model Railroader made a like a way back. I like to watch it sometimes. It's like building the Madison Central, and they use Bachmann Easy Track, and they buy a cork sheet and they just cut it up and build it up beside the roadbed, and I think they just plaster or like put like putty in between the roadbed and the cork and just smooth it out. And I mean that looks just fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's always ways around it.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Mark? Are you partial to coming off the main and going down, or do you like to keep it all the same?
I was fine with the same level until you said it looks garbage, Mark.
Yeah, Chris, stop putting terrible. Like, stop shaming us.
It's not prototypical, Mark. It's not prototypical.
Yeah,
lower that siding for goodness sakes.
If you come over after this whole COVID thing and you look at my Code 100 and you're like, Dave, the rail looks a little big. You're out. I'm keeping whatever trains you bring over, but you're out. They probably.
What's the point? None of them are gonna run. It's like that. You're like I'm the only one left, and then at least I have books, and then his glasses break. I have time now.
You know what? I think for my next sighting, I'm going to try and lower it again, just to challenge myself. See if I can do it. See if I can pull it off.
Do it.
Like Dave said, if I can't do it, I can't do it. I won't lose sleep over it.
Yeah. Like I don't watch other people's videos and start hyperventilating when the track doesn't change heights.
Yeah.
And it's okay if some people do. I'm not trying to shame anybody. I'm just saying I don't care.
Now I have seen it, and I can't remember where.
Chris is one of those people.
No. Where we came off of the cork track, the cork roadbed, using the Woodland Scenics riser.
I might try that.
But that gets expensive. Like one of those riser sets are not cheap, and to cut off, a couple inches of it.
You can get a set of 2% gradients that are, just the starting, and it gives you, I think, 4.
Yeah, I got the 4% ones. Yeah.
So,
I got the 4% ones. It was still like, I don't know, it was like $30 or something for the box of 4. And then when you make a mistake and you rip it off and you're like, oh my god, you're trying to like glue the little thing back together because you don't want to buy a new box. That's like, oh yeah, that's what's going on back here, guys. Like,
it's too bad they didn't make cork, a transitional cork that would go from main to siding.
I mean, they've got those track pieces where you can go from code whatever to code whatever.
Yeah.
Which is neat because then it takes, I guess, the terribleness of math out of it. So, but
bless you.
Even that beanie he had for dinner.
Yeah.
What about adhesives? Now, I know that, Dave, you mildly talked about white glue for everything.
All the way. All the way. Yeah, you need to change something. You take this spray bottle of H2O, you squirt it on there, turns white, you lift it up with like a putty knife or whatever, and you're good to go. It's not going anywhere. Like, really, how much force are your trains, how fast are your trains going that you need to use, like, friggin' industrial grade adhesive? No offense to anybody who uses it, but I just don't see it. I'm using dollar store glue everywhere.
Why can I picture him being all like, 1 for you, 2 for me? It's hot in here.
Are you saying you don't eat glue? What's wrong with eating glue? Oh, you're talking about the water? Oh, did I just out myself? Nobody else eats white glue as a kid? Maybe an adult? Mm-hmm. Just me?
Well,
okay.
I was warned from using white glue to put down my cork because they said, when you go to put your ballast down, you wet your ballast, it's going to wet the glue on the cork and it's going to lift. Sure enough. Remember what happened in my little section there? All the cork and track lifted because the glue got wet.
Did you paint them first, or was that just...
Paint what, the track?
Yeah, the track and the cork before you did that? Because I painted mine. I'm wondering if, like, hopefully my paint... Because I use that Rust-Oleum stuff. I wonder if that's going to create a protective barrier. I'm going to try it. I'll spray some on my track right now. Well,
Dave, you're not supposed to ask him a loaded question like that, because then he's going to be like, what did Chris tell me to do? And then I'm going to take the heat on that one. Just think about it like this, Dave.
I'm going to spray it right now.
Even if you didn't, paint it, if it does come up a little bit, you've just made yourself elevated curves. Boom.
Yeah.
It's a win-win.
I'm spraying it right now very liberally. Well, I'm curious. I want to see, because if that's true, I'm in kind of a pickle here. So I'm curious.
You have a photo of the. I was so happy. It looks so. Remember, I texted the picture. Said, look at my ballast work. Oh, it's all done. Coming the next day, all lifted. Almost started to cry.
I almost started to cry. You sent me the picture. You're like, look what you did. I'm like, whoa.
Wait, so Chris, you didn't tell him you snuck in and lifted all that, or?
Couldn't believe it.
It was my good intentions that lifted that track.
True.
But so I've tried a little bit of everything myself, just because obviously a number of layouts and a number of different methods of doing whatever, right? So when it's foam, like when it's pink foam to wood, I definitely use No More Nails. Now, I got away with not having to do that this time around. So I use Lepage wood glue, and it works so well for cork to wood, and dries super fast, holds super well. Yeah, and then white glue holds down my track, no problem.
Oh, so do you have a problem with it lifting?
No, because I spray everything and I paint everything.
Okay, so yeah, I think that's maybe that's my saving grace, because I might have to make a correction. The water isn't even turning the glue white, probably because I painted over everything with the Rust-Oleum, so it's not able to even get to the glue, and it's not even loosening the paint. So I might kind of be okay. The nice thing about white glue is even if I don't spray it, it's still weak enough that I can just pry it up and it comes off anyway. Like, I'm not super like half a bottle on 6 inches of cork, but maybe that's saving grace.
So now I'm very nervous to ballast the rest of my track, because my siding is one thing to lift, but if my main line lifts, I'll be really upset.
Yeah.
So the one thing that you could probably do, even going forward, right? Because of the fact that you can't, like, we're able to spray with the Rust-Oleum stuff, the camouflage, but you're not able to do that, right? You can't use sprays and stuff like that. So before you lay any more track, use some of that acrylic brown paint just over the cork and whatnot after it's glued down. And then when it comes to that being dried, glue your track down over top, and then it should hold. it should be okay.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah, looks like mine's not even doing anything. So
That's good. Good.
whew, as long as I don't have to rip anything up, I think I'm okay. But even so, I was able to rip stuff because I've made some changes and I just pry it up and it comes up because it's just white glue, so it's not like it's uber strong. But well, I'm sorry that happened to you, Mark. Though that sucks. I remember how upset you were.
I fixed it, and I was warned too. I was warned. It's all good.
James is asking if I use white glue to put down my cork. No, Lepage wood glue. I go from cork right down onto the wood with this layout. But if it was cork to pink foam, I would totally use the No More Nails. I just find that it's strong, like just a thin coat. Or at least that's what I have used in the past. So
I used the Woodland Scenics white glue, which is just expensive white glue in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly.
But you got to for like selling it like it's. Like,
I mean, it looks the same, it smells the same, it tastes the same. It's expensive dollar store white glue. Can confirm. My taste buds wouldn't lie, guys. Come
on. And then, of course, when we're coloring, Mark, you use the markers, right?
Yeah. You know why?
Can't spray?
No, some guy told me to use them.
Oh.
I thought they were markers.
Well, yeah, because they're like good for smaller layouts. Because I mean, you don't have to like. If I was trying to use the marker pens on my layout,
Chris, you told me to use markers too, and I was like, "Fam, I am not doing that."
Well, yeah, I mean, attention span, right? But
yeah, that's.
I wouldn't even paint my track. I wouldn't paint my track, but Chris told me to, so.
Yeah. You can't use spray paint, can you? Though.
No, I can't.
Would you be able to?
No, even if I could, I wouldn't spray my track.
No.
Why not?
Camel brown? No.
Because then you have to spray the rails. The rails get dirty. Then I gotta clean the rails.
To be fair, don't do what I do. I use that Pico eraser. If you're just light, it works great. But then you get a little impatient and you really start pressing hard. And you know what? To be fair, it's all dulled now. But for the first little bit, talk about rail sound. It was so loud because the rails were so abrasive. And I was so upset because somebody didn't tell me, and I was consulting a third party here, Chris. And he was like, yeah, just spray it. And I was like, okay. And then I sprayed it and I was like, man, none of my switches are working right. He's like, Dave, I told you to cover them. I'm like, no, you didn't. And he's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I did. I was like, Chris, I'm looking at the messages right now, man. You didn't tell me. Luckily, my wife donated like some isopropyl and like all of her Q-tips. And I went and actually used those. Works like a charm now. But I'd spray it again. I'd do it again, but I would cover some of my switch, at least the very tips of the point rails, and I would just probably try to use the isopropyl from the get-go.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
When you go to paint your switches, don't forget to cover your points, okay?
Thanks for letting me know, man. Oh, that was a close call.
I like to help, You know how I am.
To be fair, I'm like, no harm, no foul. Like, I don't hold that against you. I did remember to cover my infrared sensors, though, so that was a big bonus because I think that would have sucked.
I think I mentioned that.
Actually, you did mention that, yeah. Great. I was going to try to pass it off as my idea, but never mind.
I got it from Mark. Mark sent me a text message. He said, don't forget to let him know to cover up those sensors or we'll never hear the end of it.
Yeah. It's combining with can.
Yeah, I get like Dave said there as well. Like we get most of our supplies from the dollar store. I got I get hot glue gun
Yep.
sticks by
Oh,
the
yeah.
truckload.
Yep.
All these cruddy paint brushes and
Yep.
whatnot.
Acrylic paints.
Acrylic paints. Yep.
Yeah. White glue.
Mhm.
I like the little mat for cutting stuff on, like whatever I can find. I'm like, like cases, like pencil cases and stuff for little bits and bobs. Oh yeah, I'm all over that. Usually I get my wife to get it because I never go in the dollar store. But
And Brandon would totally smack me for saying this, but also X-Acto knives. You can get X-Acto knives from the dollar store. Even though he recommends that I use the professional ones. And I'm like, look, I just can't adult all the time, you know? I just like to use the X-Acto knives sometimes. So, and they're cheap. I go through a bunch of them. I'm very, like, rough with them. I end up, like, if I'm carving foam, the blade will go flying.
Yes, you snap them? Yeah, mine too. I snap mine all the time.
Like, I should wear safety goggles from the dollar store, but I don't even bother wearing safety goggles from the dollar store. So.
I figured glasses are enough. What's it gonna do? Come at my eye and then like go around and in? Like, you know.
Yo, true story. Did I tell you what happened when I was like, you know, the lights on the underside?
Yeah.
So
with the solder? Yeah.
So I was trying to solder this way, like upwards, and it flicked, and solder hit me right on, like, just on the top of the nose, like right there. God. And it left a little blister. If it was like an inch either way, probably would have been blind. That was a fun day.
I like how you say that like you're so proud. Like, yeah, could be blind. I'm not.
It was a good day.
To be fair, I can't say stuff because like I work on my car and it's like I should probably not be here doing this right now, or you know, it's fine. And then you like near miss it. You're like, we'll know for next time. And the next time you're like, remember last time when I thought I should wear those? Nah, it's fine.
What are the chances of it happening twice?
Yeah, it's.
And when it does happen, I think the man thing is to just put Robitussin on it, you know, or, you know, fix everything with Robitussin, you know. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
I just whine to my wife.
And
then she takes care of me.
I can't complain to mine. She just tells me to man up or something. I don't know. I was complaining about my knee.
Look at my thumb. Look at my thumb, honey.
Suck it up. Yeah.
What do you mean you got blood on the carpet? I don't care about your layout.
Actually, funny story, at my old house, and I'm pretty sure I told you this, I was trying to make my own risers out of foam, and I totally sliced my finger, and I saw the whole thing happen in slow-mo, and I was like running, but crawling out from behind my layout, and my wife was with the kids watching a movie there, and all you hear is, uh-oh, and I'm running. There's like blood all up the stairs. No one came to see how I was. No one asked me if I was okay. But I'm alive to tell the story, and I'm better for it now. So
your finger's just an inch smaller. No big deal.
No big deal. I didn't need that
millimeters.
Anyway.
Couple millimeters. Just the tip fell off.
They call them fingers, but I never see them fing. I don't know. So that's one less. Either way. But yeah, no, it's with track and whatnot. There's like, so obviously everyone's heard of many different variations of, you know, track to foam, track to wood, track to cork, and everything in between. All things with the grades and all that. Hopefully, it wasn't too confusing. You know, it is what it is. You got to try a couple of things and see what works best for you.
Chris, James has a question. Do you see James' question?
Yes. I have a question about soldering track. Do you solder after you lay the track, or solder a few sections then lay the track?
Yes.
That's a good-looking question. Especially when it comes to curves, I always solder on a straight, and then I curve it. So, for example, if I've got a pre-existing part of my layout where there's already track, if it's a straight section, I can just add one. But if I know if it's going to be going into a big curve, I will solder two pieces together and then I will solder it to that straight piece that's pre-existing, and then I will curve it around that big section. Hopefully that wasn't too confusing. But yeah, solder on a straight, then curve. Usually I'll do I won't do more than 2, because handling, especially down here, 9 feet of track with, no extra hands. Yeah, it's tough. So I do minimal. I'll do two slices at a time sometimes, or I'll do 1 depending on the section. What about you guys?
It's what you told me to do.
Yeah, I also do what you told me to do. But I mean, I learned that from my last layout. I usually solder the flex track on a straight, and I'll pre-cut. I'll pre-fit everything, and then I'll solder it and put it back.
Yeah. But there's some times where you can't pre-solder. You have to actually solder the rails on the track.
Yeah. And I don't really offset my rail joints often. Sometimes, on a curve, I will kind of try, but not a lot, just because. Well, I guess if I solder straight and then I curve it, it'll be offset. But I try to not clip. I try to keep the ties in place as much as possible.
Yeah. And always start at a switch. Place your switch. Make sure you know where that's going. Drill your hole and whatnot.
Because that's always going to be straight.
Yeah. Unless it's a number 7, which.
I don't solder my turnouts into place.
No.
Thank God too. Thank God I didn't, because so many times I had to, especially installing those Walther switch machines, I had to lift up my turnouts, take them out and stuff. So no regrets there.
I don't have anywhere that has, well, I've only got the 2 tortoises, but I don't have those soldered, but all the other ones I do.
Really? Eh?
Well, because they're just using the Pico springs, so I'm worst case I can just unsolder it, but it's definitely a pain, especially now that I painted the track. But surprisingly, I've actually not had to replace any, and I've even fixed the broken ones that I thought I needed to replace, so I haven't had to replace them. So I've been very lucky. Probably not best practice though. I'd probably go with what you do. Well, actually, on my old layout, I did that. I didn't solder any of mine.
Yeah, I think I solder everything. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So as far as it goes, from what I'm establishing here with just our overall vibe, I find that hand laying tracks for us is probably not for us. Do you think it's a thing that you get with age? If you were getting really up there and you wanted to do a very nice handcrafted kind of thing, you would do it. But at this moment, we want to be able to run trains. We want to get things done faster in that sense, but still remain keeping it looking good and professional in that sense. So we just use whatever code and all that. Dave?
Thank you.
Are you eating bacon right now?
I'm actually eating a cookie. It's delicious. I was trying to hide it from the audience.
Couldn't hide that chewing. Is it a chewy cookie?
It is. It's a Subway cookie, actually.
Did you do a good deed? Is that why you got a cookie?
I thought I was pretty entertaining tonight. I thought I deserved it.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair.
But I will say, if I was going to do a narrow gauge of any kind, I would totally hand lay the rails. I think narrow gauge has that imperfection look, like a privatized narrow gauge railroad has hand laid ties in real life instead of a machine that just goes and spaces them all perfectly. So I'd probably try to hand lay if that was the case.
Huh. I have no interest at all.
Out of all 3 of our layouts, I would have thought that Dave would have done hand laid. Personally. Because of the whole privatized island type dealy.
Don't forget, Dave's lazy.
I mean, without the characteristic traits of oneself, I'm just saying overall the layout would call for that. Really?
Yeah, that's true. You're right. You're right. Wait, is that a shot at my code 100? I knew it.
No. No, code 100 is fine. Totally fine. Like I said, when I had first started planning this and I started buying track, I was going to do code 100 for my main line. I just don't like that whole transition from 100 to 83. So
Yeah.
I'm like, one less problem, code 83 everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm done. That was it.
You guys don't have any crossovers on your layout, eh?
Not yet.
I'm the only one.
I've never used one of those, well, except for when I was at your house, and I was like blown away.
To be fair, that was a Pico one, and much like the Turnouts, the tolerances are extremely low. I've got the Atlas one on my main line now, no problems.
It's just one piece.
Yeah, it's just the it's on my main line, and it's got the crossover, and it's got a lot more like the plastic frogs, kind of in that Atlas fashion. And it works great. But yeah, I had the Pico one on my old layout, and it was somewhat problematic. And so I decided I wanted this to run as good as possible. So I went with Atlas in this case. I've also got those 2 double slips, and they work good, but they're Pico.
You know, the one thing that I've always wanted to do, and I don't know if this is off topic or not, but it has to do with trains and stuff. But everybody often talks about, you know, their first layout and whatnot. If I had, you know, an option to do a really unique video at my age right now, I would do a build, and also if I had the space, I would build the same layout I had as a child, but as an adult with, you know, whatever, to see, you know, I don't know what I'd be accomplishing by doing that, but just as a nostalgic thing, you know. I mean, come on, that Atlas turntable. I know you guys had it. You guys had that Atlas turntable.
I had an oval. I had an oval with a hole cut in the middle and 1 passing siding. And then, you know what I did? We had one of those pencil sharpeners from school on our walls. I don't know how we got it. It was always there. And I used pencil shavings. And there was like a wall in between, off to one side, and I used pencil shavings. I don't know why. I don't know what I thought it looked like, but yeah, so one side was all pencil shavings. It was such a mess. It was a disaster. Looking back, I don't know what I was thinking, but
I literally had AstroTurf.
The grass mat?
Yeah. AstroTurf.
Yeah. Okay, I had the grass mat, like it was like sandpaper but green.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's what I had. So one side was that, the other side was pencil shavings. That's it.
Mine was
2 Atlas switches.
It was more like you know what you would find for a like a mini putt. That stuff.
Oh, a little more realistic.
Hardly, because it's so thick, right? But I also at that point I was using the mini nails to hold down the cork and the track. So, you know, it was just a disaster. Oh man. It's fun. It's fun. It, you know, when you think about where you or like what you used to do compared to what you do now, you know, you really feel that sense of progression, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
But so that was great. It was a great conversation. I hope everybody learned something. And the takeaway is that it's not my fault. I hope that that's the takeaway from all of it.
The real takeaway is it's your layout. Do it the way you want to do and learn from your mistakes. Be open to advice, but at the end of the day, do what you want and go from there.
And okay, so next Thursday is, well, Third Rail Thursday with Dave Coe. Hopefully everybody will join in and join Dave. And Dave, do you know what you're doing yet, or?
We're gonna run some trains, and I think we're going to try to cardboard weave above that tunnel portal that I've been hinting at. I don't know. Well, I'm not so good, but I think we're going to try that.
A bacon weave?
I'll eat a bacon weave.
Okay.
Maybe if I get to 2,000 subscribers, it'll just be a video of me eating bacon.
Hopefully,
So get
it's a
me there.
bacon nacho video.
2,000 slices of bacon.
Oh my god. Man goes to hospital, needs stomach pumped, sneaks bacon into hospital afterwards, needs stomach pumped a second time.
And then, of course, well, that's next Thursday. This Sunday, I'm continuing on with my Sunday brunch kit builds. I'm still working on my steel mill. You can see I've got some stuff painted. I've got more stuff painted and glued together. If you've missed the last couple of episodes, yeah, you haven't missed too much, but that's me overselling it. But yeah, I've got lots more to do. So if you're around Sunday mornings, 10 a.m., and you want to build a kit, you want to join, we had Brandon. He joined me the last couple, and he's always giving a very insightful point of view on how to do certain things. I think he was showing how to weather, and then he was planting trees this past Sunday. He was quite the arborist, and I'm not sure what he has planned for this Sunday, if he's going to be joining us or not. But I think also Big CW will join us this Sunday as well. He had issues finding a tripod of some sort last week, so I think he said this week.
Fun.
And then, of course, we're going to be here next month, which is in May 27th for GVO After Dark, yet again for episode number 7 of season 3. And it'll be a good one. I don't know what it's going to be about, but I'm going to assume, because Mark and Dave will be there. It's always a good time.
That's true.
Always a good time.
Yeah. Do you guys have anything else you would like to share? Anything else you want to blame me for?
Everything wrong for both of our layouts.
That's fair. That's fair. I
I
feel...
want to thank James for watching my video. James says he watched my tunnel building video. That's my most viewed video on YouTube, I think. James, thank you. Hope
Is
you
that the
liked it.
one where the train breaks through the blocks?
That was my old intro, yeah.
Wait, but didn't you do that in a video as well?
Oh, yeah, I think so. One of my very first ones.
Back when you were just a youngin' on YouTube.
Where
Yeah.
it was like lowercase m and lowercase m. Aw.
Yeah, but for some reason, that tunnel building video was like the #1 video. Go figure. Anyway, thanks, James. And for my live show, remind me if I forget my live show. I will try and point out the switch configuration which kills the train. See if you guys can help with that. Get to the bottom of it.
And that's you're still doing the 3rd week, right?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a fun one. I have an idea.
Oh, you've already got it planned out.
Got it planned out. Should be interesting.
I'm just checking here. Okay, so yeah, Dave is on the 6th. I'll be on the 13th. Mark is on the 20th, and GVO After Dark is on the 27th. So I'm sure we'll make notification of that when it gets closer to the time. Do you guys have any other things that are coming out, upcoming, fun?
Maybe a layout update at some point soon. Talk about the tunnel portal and the cardboard weave that I haven't shown yet.
Yeah, I might do a quick video of my the new houses I built. Very short videos.
Geez, today's the 29th. Is it the end of the month already? Wow. Wait,
That's why we're doing GVO, Chris.
I guess, but I didn't realize like tomorrow is the last day of April. I think that this has been like the longest month, not gonna lie. Feels like it's been so long. But
I thought there were months with 31 days left.
yeah, I don't know. Getting stuck inside. All the days.
It's almost summer. It's almost summertime.
All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. I want to thank both Mark and Dave for co-hosting tonight. And we'll see everybody next week on Dave's Third Rail Thursday. I had to think about it. Sorry, it's the abbreviations that get me. All right, you guys have a good night, and thanks again, everybody.
Take care, guys.